Hey, thanks for checking out the video. If you all like it, please like and subscribe, and hope you all enjoy it. Have a great rest of the day. Hey y'all, hope you all are having a good day today. Just checking in here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Well, you all are probably wondering why I'm in the downtown area of Charlotte, North Carolina here. Well, it's quite the story. If I were to tell you that a Revolutionary War battle occurred here on September 26th of 1780, what would your thoughts be? Well, to be honest with you, that's exactly what happened. So, this is the intersection right here. Before I go too crazy into this, I'm going to show you a little bit around the general spot here. Excuse all the noises and stuff. Got some statues here and some memorials, some signs and all. So this is Trade Street right here. Now, heading that way, you are heading towards North Tryon. If you head to the left here, you are heading towards South Tryon, just for a frame of reference. So, with that being said, this is the battleground in which the Battle of Charlotte took place. Now, before I go too much into it, I'm going to tell you a little bit about some actual background information on the topic as well. So, at the time, it was described by Colonel William R. Davie. It was a small town of maybe about 20 houses set on two intersecting roads, hence Trade and Tryon, in what is now downtown Charlotte. Now, everyone has their preference. Technically, it's considered Uptown Charlotte, but I guess everyone calls it different. I've been corrected on numerous occasions, and I've been told to call it Uptown Charlotte. So, anyways, at the middle of the intersection, so imagine in the middle of this intersection right here of Trade and Tryon, there was a courthouse, literally, on what is best described as being on solid platforms, stilts or pillars. Under said courthouse is what they called a market, where everyone would buy the basics, such as vegetables and other basic needs. Market stuff, pretty much, you know, and between each of these pillars was maybe about a 3.5 foot tall wall, you know, which offered cover to Davie's men during the battle. So before we get to the battle itself, the reason the battle happened was because General Davidson, he was in charge of the militia in North Carolina at the time, had encountered the British and was on the retreat. And Charlotte happened to be the route that he chose to retreat through. So at the time, they didn't have nearly as many roads as they do now. Of course, as you can imagine, this was 1780. So they had to use a network of what they called wagon roads. These roads are not what we would see today, but one could compare these roads to a modern day highway, and only these highways existed as they didn't have Franklin Boulevard or Copeland's Road or I-95 or they had those highways though, but not quite like what we have today, you know, as far as like these big major roads, you know. So to navigate these wagon roads, they used a Maison map. Correct me if I'm wrong on that spelling or pronunciation. Everyone pronounces it a little bit different though, I guess, but either way. Now, fearing that the far superior and bigger army would catch up with the British, General Davidson left a detachment of militia to help slow down the British to ensure his retreat. Approximately I'd like to say about 150 men. So the number of British in attendance of the battle was far greater, of course, as you can imagine, with it being the whole main British army there in the southern department, as you can imagine. So in preparation for this battle, Colonel Davie placed one company under the courthouse, which was here in the middle of the road, and the courthouse, you know, pretty much under the courthouse here, and had two companies up the road by about 80 yards to cover some of the houses and gardens, even between the houses too. Now he placed those two companies down towards South Tryon down there. So as I mentioned, they were coming from the south. They were coming up the road from South Tryon, and they were heading north. And again, this is trade right here. So on that day, Charlton and a few men had been sick, so he was not in attendance for that particular reason, which of course left Major Hanger in charge of the dragoons. Known for being harsh and brutal, Charlton and his dragoons, a certain expectation, of course, in battle was kind of expected, as you can imagine. So when Major Hanger came up South Tryon from down there towards Charlotte, which is where we're in here now, to scope out, quote-unquote, Charlotte with orders from Lieutenant General Lord Cornwallis to not engage in any significant large battles. So of course he comes stomping in with a huge attitude instead, you know. So all this to get his feathers ruffled by a surprise attack, as you can imagine. So after retreating back to the main force under Cornwallis, which was not far away, Cornwallis says something along the lines of course, you know, a whole bunch of back and forth, you know, between the two forces and stuff that had occurred and all that sorts. So Cornwallis says something along the lines of, "You have nothing to gain and everything to lose." So Hanger was sent back with additional men, causing Davies to tactically retreat in the direction of Sugar Creek Church, which is now pronounced Sugar Creek Church. So all this in trying to slow down the British main army. So in total, American casualties were estimated to be about 5 killed and maybe 6 wounded, approximately. British casualties were estimated to be about 44 killed and wounded. And some will say that the other side won this battle, but I guess it all depends on what your outlook is. So, with that being said, I did bring some notes and all that stuff though from when I had initially wrote this script and all that stuff, but I guess some things that I really had to say about this is that this battle did occur along a main route, as they would say. In my opinion, was relatively effective in actually slowing down the British force. What I found pretty fascinating about this whole situation is that the Patriot militia was pretty effective, in my opinion, as far as using the surrounding areas and the surrounding terrain to their advantage, as interesting as it sounds. And I think that's what I found pretty nice about the whole situation. And they used the underside of the courthouse and all that sorts. I guess I kind of find that pretty interesting, in my opinion. And I hope you enjoy the site, and if you ever have the chance to come by Charlotte, make sure that you stop by the intersection of Trade and Tryon. Look at all these big, tall buildings here. Who would have thought? They certainly didn't have these here in 1780.